What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be walking you through a long-term review on my 2020 or 2021 Santa Cruz Megatower Carbon. Keep in mind the frame has not changed for 2021, so this is essentially the same thing, just in a way better color in my opinion than what they're offering in 2021. I'm going to walk through what I like, what I didn't like, and things that I would change. So let's check this guy out. So as with my previous reviews on some other Santa Cruz bikes, I just want to show you the frame here. It's stock form. It's not cleaned, nothing too crazy. I could brush it up and make it look beautiful and shine, but I'm not going to go down that road. This is what it is after about a season and a half of riding. So I thought I'd share my opinion on it and walk you through a couple of the things here. So let's get this guy started. This is the Megatower C model. They do offer the CC version, the difference being about half a pound in frame weight. I'm not racing, so I don't really care. It's a carbon frame. It's light enough for me. It's stiffer than the metal ones or the aluminum ones, in my opinion. And with that, you get that lifetime warranty, free bearing replacement for the life of the original frame and owner, and with receipt obviously. And yeah, so this is the C version with the S build kit that I got originally, with obviously a couple changes, so I will walk you through it. So as we can see here, it does have that white head tube badge. On the CC frames, the lettering of Santa Cruz would be red. And then in the head tube itself, we can see we have internal routing on both the rear brake, the internal dropper, as well as the derailleur cable. So little things like that to me really add up to quiet riding characteristics, as well to know those internal cable routings are on a track system that go inside the carbon frame, so that it's super easy to route cables from top to bottom. You're not going to get them lost inside the frame. As you can see here, I did change out the brake set from a SRAM variety to Shimano Saints. You know, if you know me, I do prefer the Shimano brake systems to the SRAM. They just seem to last a little longer and have less brake fade. And then as you can see here, I did change the standard cockpit for a race face variety. I like the Carbon 6 C-bar in an 820 mil width with a 20 mil rise, which for me just works fantastic, and don't plan on changing that anytime soon on this bike. I have opted for the larger front rotor. I've gone to a 220 mil from the standard. I think this guy comes with 200 mil front and back, so just to give it a little more brake power. And then on the suspension side of things, I did in fact keep the standard suspension kit with the S carbon build kit, so that includes this Fox 36. I haven't had any issues with it. It is set to 160 mil. I know that some of the newer versions do come with the 170 mil front. I don't think it's necessary, but would I say no to it? I don't think so. I wouldn't mind giving it a try. But then again, the 160 mil variety isn't limiting me in any way, other than I wish I had that Grip 2 damper. It does come with a standard grip damper, so it's not as usable in my opinion. So as we can see here, this is the grip damper top, so you can turn that to change your compression, which works fine for what it is, but it's just not as lively as a Grip 2 or as adjustable as independent adjustability on the high and low speed compression. So it is the float model, and that means that it has adjustable air pressure on the top left leg, and then this rebound cartridge which is protected in the bottom, which is tucked away nicely, and then obviously you can clock the front axle as needed in order to get that skewer back. In the rear we have a RockShox Super Deluxe Select Plus, which is basic rebound and a climb switch, which you know, if it's down you're in descend mode, and if it's up like such, bloop, you're in climb mode. So nothing too crazy. It's a coil shock. It doesn't overwhelm the bike to me personally. I think it's better than an air can. It's nice and supple, but for me personally, I wouldn't mind something with dual independent rebound and compression, just to kind of fine tune it for me. But that being said, 85% of the people out there riding a coil shock are going to be just fine with the Super Deluxe coil. As well for reference, so I'm about 205 pounds, and I do run a 550 pound spring, which is very much in tune with what the Santa Cruz website itself recommends for this bike. The bearings on the frame are covered by a lifetime warranty to the original owner of the bike. After a season and a half of use, I'll probably take this guy apart and make sure everything's running good, but I haven't had any issues with any of the bearings, which tells you why they offered that warranty in the first place. Everything's smooth and without issue. This little fender that's behind the shock itself is a lifesaver. To me, especially if you're running an air can, it just keeps all the dirt and debris out of the shock, or in this case, I guess off the coil springs, which, dirt could be resting on the coil and then falling onto that piston, which could eventually cavitate the oil inside the shock, which just, it's one less thing to worry about. They are replaceable, I'm referring to the guard, if needed, and available on the Santa Cruz website. The rear shock is fitted with a lower link that can be adjusted into a high or low position. This to me is very travel dependent on the fork, or if you're doing much more climbing. As stated, this is a double XL frame, and I would say anyone riding an XL or a double XL should probably be riding this in the low position with either a 160 or a 170 mil fork, and it just lowers your BB a little bit in combination with the rear end lengthened. It just moves your front center that much more forward. Now, I did opt for the WeAre1 Union wheel set simply because it's carbon, it's locally made out of Kamloops, Canada, British Columbia, and it's got a good 30 mil internal width. It has that lifetime warranty. And, I've had this guy for now 2 seasons, almost 3 since the Union. 2018, I originally got the Union wheel set. It's been faultless. And then actually went and got the Faction wheel set for the tall boy. And everything's been fantastic without any issues whatsoever. Now, the factory crank set that came in the S-Build kit is this Truvative Stylo. I think it's a, S7000 or Stylo 7000 series, something like that. The dub setup has been fantastic, being that weird axle size of 28.99 mil or some ridiculous accurate number such as that. It hasn't given me any issues. The bottom bracket, the axle width, it's been solid, it's been stiff. I just don't want you guys to get too hung up on the actual build kit of this bike. It's an aluminum crank set. They're all about the same. They're all about the same stiffness. The only thing that I actually complain about is the fact that this guy here, this dub cap, they seem to fall out as I find them all over the trails. And then as we can see through the crank set, through the chainring here, we are set up with an ISCG 05 chain guide mount. So you can run this guy with a chain guide, with a taco bash, with a top guide, whatever you feel is necessary for your build. I'm running this North Shore Billet 28 tooth boost space chainring, which also hasn't given me any issues whatsoever. It's a narrow wide, so I haven't really had a need for a chain guide, but it's nice to know the options there if I do need it. As I've previously done a video on, the rear axle on this guy can be lengthened or shortened by 10 mil, just right here, using a flip chip. I've always run it in the long setting after originally setting it up in the short. I just felt that it moved my front center forward, being a taller rider, and added some stability in the longer setting. So that's what I've left it at for about a year now, and haven't had any issues. These integrated rubber chainstay protectors keep this bike really, really quiet all the way down the trail. You can see there's one on the bottom, it's ribbed, and it's built to soak up the chain so that these things are just deadly quiet going down the trail. All you hear is the sound of the suspension moving on just about every Santa Cruz you ride, based on these little features that are in fact built in. Speaking of built-in protection, we have the Shuttle Guard on the top of the down tube. This is used to protect the bottom of the frame for tailgate pads and shuttling. So it's little things like this that are value added that will add durability and duration to the bike itself. And then underneath the bottom bracket area, we have one more guard that's used for protection against rocks that might be thrown up from the front wheel. And then obviously on the inside of the front triangle, we have this beautiful thing called a water bottle cage that it seems to be going away in the industry, and is quietly making another comeback here. It has a water bottle mount. End of discussion. I need it. I like having it. Get one. Get a bike with one. The other thing that I love that Santa Cruz has maintained, even though it does have a higher cost, is this threaded bottom bracket. I don't know why we've gone to press fit. It's a pain in the butt. It creaks. It's obviously cheaper for the manufacturing process, which is likely why most bikes are switching to that, and quietly coming back to threaded. So to me, having a threaded bottom bracket on the Megatower is a huge home run, especially given the style of bike that this is. The chatter has been kept to a minimum in the back with the Shimano Saint brakes. No issues here. That the thru axle is boost, so that's 12 by 148 mil, which is a fantastic fit for this bike. I like that we are finally starting to stick with that trend for a change rather than going to this new Super Boost idea. I'm not sold on that, but who knows what the next couple of years look like for me. But for the time being, I'm a big fan of the rear end of this bike. It's nice and stiff, gives you the adjustability on that flip chip on the axle. Just don't forget to change the brake mount adapters if you do decide to change the axle setting. As for this lower link, my understanding is there's a couple different versions of this link based on a coil or air shock variety, especially in the early releases, the 2019 batch. Do yourself a favor, if you're buying a used one, just make sure that you have checked what version of the link that comes with the bike, in case you do want to swap between air and coil. But as far as I know, the 2020s have a universal link for that. The SRAM Eagle GX drivetrain has been awesome. Nothing short of fantastic, to be honest. No issues that I've experienced. It does have that, I think it's a 1050 tooth range on the cassette, which now has been switched to a 52 tooth top ring, which is whatever. A lot of people have issues with the GX stuff, or more so the NX Eagle version, but I haven't had any issues. It's been faultless. I'm not hammering on this thing, and I'm generally able to set it up using that B-knuckle adjust tool. So I haven't had any issues with the GX platform. On the Megatower has been no different to this. The bike does come with a RockShox reverb seat post. You know how I feel about these. They're nothing crazy. When they work, they work. When they don't, they don't. On this bike, it is stealth routed. No issues to report on that end. I will say that these stock Cane Creek headsets do have a little bit of issues, in my opinion. They can get a little creaky. Just make sure that when you do get them, because it's essentially just a bearing that's sitting on an internally built headset cup. Just do yourself a favor, make sure it's nice and greased, tighten down correctly, and you won't have any issues. But sometimes from the factory they come a little dry. So that is pretty much one of the only things that I would say coming from factory. Just make sure that the headset is nice and greased up. So who's the 2020-2021 Santa Cruz Megatower Carbon for? Well, to me, it's someone who races enduro, or, you know, wants to take a bike to the resorts, and, you know, maybe they don't have a downhill bike. Maybe this is their enduro sled. Maybe they just want a one bike that kind of is in that category of, I race on the weekends, but I might do some resort riding during the week. And don't want to buy a dedicated sled. The 29-inch wheels roll over anything and eat up everything. The 160mm VPP travel is a pleasure to climb with, although a little bit portly compared to obviously an air-sprung Tallboy or Hightower at 120 or 140mm. But the bike eats enduro races for lunch. I've done a couple races aboard it myself without any issues, and it's been faultless. I will say, from my perspective, definitely upgrade the brakes if they come with SRAM brakes. They don't work for me. And then from there, don't get too hung up on the part spec itself. It is what it is. Invest in the suspension side, which obviously this build kit came with something that was manageable in that coil shock and the Fox 36 without giving me any issues. So it's been a real home run for me, and hasn't given me any issues. The cable routing's awesome. The threaded bottom bracket is awesome. It's quiet with that ribbed chainstay protector, as well as the Shuttle Guard and the bottom bracket cover that kind of keeps everything quiet and durable. So to me, this is a great race bike. It's at home on Husky trails. It's at home, like a Silver Star or a Whistler bike park, or even just, if you want to build this guy up to be a very burly all-day trail shredder, I suppose you could do that. It's light enough to do so, and you're just gonna have to cheat it to the downs. So that's kind of my overall impression of this guy. And if you have any questions, shoot them below and let me know how I can help, or if you have any technical questions, definitely leave them below. All right, guys, peace.